Welcome to the first E-SIG of 2026. It is January 20th. We have a very small group of people here. Luke has just joined us. Luke, welcome. Um,
Hello.
the topic items I have for today are really just some administrative tasks to improve the communication of the E-SIG because it's not been great in 2025 and there's definitely room for improvement, and it came up in our last quarter of 2025. So I want to go through that. It's really good that we have the current co-chairs, which is me, Dominic, Emily, and Stephen on the call. So we'll go through what we can do there. And then the only outstanding item on the agenda is targets that we might want to set, things to achieve in 2026, if we would like to do that now. There's nothing else on the agenda unless folks would like to bring something up. So I suspect this would be a rather nice and short call. So I did raise the first agenda item in the PR, so I will bring it up now, and that is just the communication. So I did a lot of reading over the New Year break, and one of the things that comes up when talking about organizing communities is especially ones that are global in nature and cross multiple time zones, is to try to use email versus instant messenger. It works better in a global setting. Often in an instant message style communication, there's an expectation that you would reply almost instantly, or you can miss out on the conversation and it progresses without you. In terms of conversation expectation in an email, that asynchronous communication actually works better in that global setting. So if somebody's in a time the conversation hasn't originally taken place, they still feel that they can contribute, and it helps that way. We do have an embedded SIG email list, which is kind of sitting there, kind of dormant. We use it sometimes, but not all the time. And we often have people asking if they can, when they join, how do they find out more? We've had problems last year of we use ICS invites for the year to tell people when meetings are on. And they do work well, except when the meetings fall on a holiday or we need to cancel them because there's nothing to talk about. And then it's very difficult to send a notification to people to cancel it because those meeting invites aren't tied with an email address. So that becomes problematic. So those are two major shortcomings in terms of communication. So I wanted to talk to you guys about what we could do about that. I have a few ideas to get your opinions and see if we can agree on a better way forward. The most obvious one is let's start using the embedded SIG email list, and I can share the link to that email group. It's a Google group, so we can say, hey, it's a Google group, come and join us. We can talk via email. This is the way to go. That'd be really good. The next thing we can do is we can start to broadcast that on Zulip and let people know that we use this predominantly. So if we see conversations on Zulip, redirect them or copy and paste them into the email thread as well. Try and get folks to use it a little bit more, just to kind of promote it. The other thing I was thinking we could do is work out how to rejig those ICS files and send them as like proper meeting invites. I need to talk to David about that to see if we could get like a Bytecode Alliance email address that we can send them from. So whoever is the chair can control them. The chairs are likely to change. It's not always going to be the collection of folks that are on the call now, and it will rotate. So it would be good to set that up so that the E-SIG can continue on without necessarily all the same people doing the chair work, which would be good. So those are the things I wanted to talk about today. Those are my proposals. Do you guys have any feedback on it? This is a terrible idea. This is a good idea. You could do it better. If you've got any experience from other communities that have been run in another way that think it's good, please share it. It's just ideas at this stage. Silence.
Um, I definitely think I'm open to trying something new on the so trying the Google group. I think it's worth a shot. Because yeah, I do agree with the Zulip. The issue is like you'll see something go by when you are asleep and you can sort of catch up, but it's still unclear what's important, what's not. I guess the question is just, are there any like norms that, have been found to be helpful in this kind of thing? Because you obviously get the alarm fatigue problem. Certainly there's an expectation that, I guess for me, if I get an email, it's something I need to pay attention to, where I've gotten used to like skimming some of the instant messenger apps and understanding like, all right, this does or does not concern me. Um,
Mhm.
so just if, because obviously with instant messenger, those interactions are a lot shorter, um, but often with less context. So I guess the key would be just understanding that this is not an instant messenger replacement, it's a communication replacement. All of the expected norms still apply.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like you have to reply to everything, but um, that's a good point. Yeah, I think for us, I saw I know the Intel team has changed with Intel's restructuring that's gone on, and still in China and continuing to keep those folks involved. There's a lot of work going on with Xiaomi as well, and there is some Sony representatives in the Asia time zone as well, and trying to get more involvement from those guys because there's a lot of really good work there. I think that's where a lot of the shared memory work for WAMR came from, so that was really good. And I'd love to keep in touch with those guys, but obviously, for for us in the US, we're almost exactly at the wrong end of the times, uh, the the globe for that communication on Zulip. So I think email would work really well there. So that would be good. Um,
Yeah, I think it worked really well. We obviously we had sort of less people engaged over the holidays, but we were working on that. There was that reported vulnerability that we all worked on, and we did it all through the Google group, and that worked really, really well. Um, so I think and again, we're dealing with folks in Asia, folks in the U.S., folks in Europe. So I think if we use it correctly and we keep the conversation productive, that can be really, really helpful. And then I think what we can do as well is I think we're already using Google Docs or Google Drive for sharing stuff, and so
mm,
that I think also connects to that. So we could if there's a document we're working on or a checklist or something, we can put that in a shared thing and then share it via the group. So I think that would be helpful.
yeah, I think we just got to be cognizant. I think the BCA wants us to put the finished documents at the very least onto the Git repo, which is fine. It's not a big deal, but
Yeah,
I think for Word documents, Google Docs way easier than trying to do Git pulls for spelling checks and
yeah.
editorial.
We actually just changed how our team does a lot of things. We've started using either a Google Doc or a shared Word document while we're developing the spec because the tools for putting comments in and seeing who said what and who made what change, that all works really, really well. It gets really confusing when you try to do it as a pull request, and there's a lot of activity. And then what we're doing after is then we just convert that doc over to Markdown and then check it in, and then that becomes and once it becomes sort of like a firm spec, then we can put it in there, and then you can handle changes to that spec via pull request, and it makes sense. We're like, hey, I added this feature to this, or I added this new object, and here's the definition. You see a complete pull request. But when there's a lot of discussion going on, the pull request and markdown stuff just gets in the way. So, if we start with like a doc or a checklist or a spreadsheet or something like that, and then once we get to once it gets to a stable enough point, moving it to markdown, I think that works really, really well.
Okay, makes sense to me. Yeah, okay. So I think we'll any objections to moving more towards the email stuff?
None from me.
Okay. So I guess what we should do is send an email reminder out, send a ping out to the um, Zulip channels. So we're gonna email a bit more. It's one of the reasons why I haven't created the calendar invites yet. To recreate the calendar invites. point, work out how to do that. So I'll get in touch with David and see if there's no address we can send stuff from and do that a bit better. Okay. We've got a bit of work to do, but it seems there's general consensus on that, which is epic. So let's mark that one as closed. So that was the one thing I wanted to talk to everybody about. And the next one is what the goals for 2026? Do we have anything we really need to get done? I think we had a whole bunch of suggestions in the last call, which was kind of cruel. And I think a big one was trying to get the LTS stuff into something a bit more stable. And I think the open question was, does the line one move? So that was an open question. Apart from that, I think there's some. I think Stephen, you and I were discussing the shared memory proposals from WAMR. Well, not proposals, but implementation of shared memory between modules and WAMR, which seems to be working pretty well for the WAMR community. I think Luke was interested in that. And is that something we should encourage the Intel team or one of us to take up for 2026 to suggest to the core WASM group? Luke has his hand raised.
Oh,
Shoot.
fun update on that one. I was talking to the browser people about it, and they sounded exciting because it also can solve this long-standing issue of how do I map an array buffer, JavaScript land into a WASM linear memory. And the Mozilla folks who had been, particularly Ben Business, who'd been doing this memory control proposals, cluster proposals, got pretty interested in it. So they may end up, and ultimately, I think there's a big question, which I've still myself wondering is what is the overhead from this approach? There's an extra branch. How much does it cost in the best and worst cases? And so they may be interested to do that experiment in Firefox and then, share their findings to the CG. And then if it goes well, maybe even champion a core proposal. So maybe we'll get some support from Mozilla on this one.
Good point. So who should we reach out and
Yeah.
I mean, if we've got WAMR right now with an implementation of it, there's no reason why they couldn't use that to get some initial benchmarks, right?
Totally. Yeah. I sent some emails to the folks who worked on it saying, is there any good data I could get? Or would you like to make a CG presentation? But I think they're busy. But yeah, getting something in Firefox would be cool. So we could have two implementations to compare. But yeah, I'm sure they'd be eager to have collaborators to make a joint proposal.
Yeah. So one of the from what I understand, just from analyzing this logically, you pay a penalty when you want to access that memory. Because what happens is basically it says, hey, is this pointer in linear memory? No, it's not. Okay, so normally that would be an out of bounds exception and your fault. In this case, it just says, oh, wait a minute, shared heap is enabled. Is it in that top region? So is it from top of memory down to whatever that is? And there's sort of a you don't have to check both sides of that range because one range is FFFFF, right? So you just have to say, is it below? Is it from here and up, right? And if it is, then you can access that memory, right? And it gets mapped to. There's a little pointer arithmetic, so it's not a huge amount of overhead. But one of the other things that the implementation does in WAMR is it allows for a chain of shared things. I forget what they call them, but basically, it uses that top address space, but then which chunk of memory gets mapped basically is like a V table lookup, and that does have a bit more overhead. So if you just want the simple, if you just want the simple, like, is it here? And I want to map a single region, great. And that's a single contiguous region, awesome, that just works. If you want to map it to like, oh, the first K is this, the second K is that, the third K is this, like then it can get really costly really fast. And again, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was just agreeing. Yeah, I bet so. Seems like it.
Now, on a machine with an MMU and access to being able to set those things and using page tables and page alignments, that works. And there's a bit of logic in WAMR today to make sure these things are all page aligned, which helps. But on things that don't have an MMU or something you're doing completely in software, they don't, the page boundary actually just gets in the way. So that's a bit crazy. The other thing is what they don't do is they don't map it as a separate memory, right? It's like a set of phantom addresses. So one thing you could do is you could actually say, hey, that is shared memory. It's actually a memory. It's memory one, and it's up here. So that's something that proposal doesn't do. So that might be something that's a consideration, because obviously in WebAssembly you can have multiple memory, but many languages don't have a concept of like, how do I access memory 2 or 3 or 4, right? In C you have to do some weird pragmas or attributes or compiler flags, and that's just totally non-standard. So what you could do is you could say, hey, memory 0 is below and memory 1 is the shared heap, right? And then it's actually a proper wise of memory. So anyway, just a couple things to consider.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, I saw the chain memory recently when I was kind of re-looking at what the state of the art is. But the one I was mostly interested in talking about was just when there's at most one mapping, because that's the one that seems reliably fast. And and the key enabler seems to be if you can very rapidly map and unmap, if it's just, writing, updating a pointer in length and memory, as opposed to a syscall with TLB flushes and all that shoot downs and stuff, then that enables a whole new usage where you're just mapping what you need right before you need it, poking at it, unmapping it, mapping the next thing. And so it seems like it might be a pretty sweet spot balance of like, it enables a lot of what you want to do, and it's a pretty good compromise without having these cliffy behaviors with the, if else chain or the software v table or software page table or any of that. So yeah, that's the one I'm specifically talking about, the before adding the chaining.
Yeah,
I think
sorry, Chris. Yeah, real quick. I think you can dynamically map it and unmap it in the WAMR implementation. I don't think the overhead is very high. I think it's just changing the base pointer, the size, and then obviously that changes the calculation. And so you could, in theory, map it or remap it really fast. Although I've never done it that way. Usually, what I've done is, hey, I need a shared buffer to share between, like a camera frame between the sensor in real world and the WebAssembly running, some object detection algorithm, right? And so you map it once, and then you basically just send signals back and forth to say, hey, the buffer's ready, go read it. Okay, I'm done with the buffer. Put the next frame in, right? And so I've not mapped it and unmapped it quickly, but I can try. Let's see what the performance is of that.
Oh yeah. I think even with the chaining, I think it's fast map and unmap. But the point was, if you have fast unmap, then just at most one mappable buffer seems more sufficient, because you can just, if you wanted 3 things, well, you just map them in rapid succession as opposed to all at once. So it's just that I'm hoping enables us to get by with this at most one mapping kind of limitation as one point. And then the second one is on the browser. There's a lot of scenarios where you don't have this one permanence array buffer that you want to like live share with like a GPU or whatever. What you have is a rapid succession, like every frame, maybe multiple times a frame, every audio chunk, in an audio worklet scenario where you have lots of a stream of array buffers over time. And you want to get given one, map it in, poke at it, unmap it, work on the next one. So it enables a bunch of web use cases too.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, all I was going to say is I think we should probably prepare some of the use cases that drove it from WAMR, side to share. So if it's going to become if we get something that was a standard, it'd be good that it covers the use cases that inspired the implementation of WAMR. So we can drop the WAMR specific implementation and use the standard one. So
yeah, for sure.
Do we know why they built that to begin? Go ahead. Sorry.
I got a demo in person at the last WASM IO where the Sony folks were showing the camera where it was an image processing pipeline. That was back when it was just at most one mapping at a time, and it was it's a sequence of frames live from the camera, and they just wanted to make a chain of modules, each one being able to analyze, do some transformation or analysis on the frame.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Should reach out to Sony for that too. Give Dan a buzz.
Do we know why they created that in WAMR? Do we know I mean, I know Sony's using it for like their camera jimmer sensor, but I don't know if they were the first.
That was the original request. I think Ayako pushed for it from
okay.
From Medicura. And then the Intel team jumped on it, and Xiaomi had a use case that would use it. So I think it was a Xiaomi Midokura Intel implementation, as far as I know.
We actually used it to memory map GPIOs so that we could do high resolution timing externally, and not have to, because the problem is we wanted to set an external GPIO and be able to read that with a scope at very high resolution. But we didn't want to have to call into the runtime via a WebAssembly function and back every time, because the overhead of that was higher. And so we were able to basically just memory map it, and it's a constant number of instructions every time we run it. So it was really good and stable for our testing, and so super low latency. So we've used it a bunch in tests and hardware, the loop kind of stuff, and it works really well. So
Good use case scenario.
yeah.
It's
horribly unportable code, by the way, but but it does work.
I was just starting to think through that of like, oh no, that's not portable at all. But how else would you do it? Because yeah, getting timing out of a WebAssembly module at a low level is a pain.
Yeah. I mean, we were working with a customer, and we're basically like, okay, we can go and put some ugly instrumentation into the WebAssembly runtime, or we can put some ugly code in WebAssembly and share the memory map GPIO. And the latter was less ugly. So, but again, I mean, as ugly as it is, like, it's instrumented code, right? So you're never going to production ship that anyway, right? So the fact that it's ugly is just par for the course, right? So sorry, Luke.
It's great chat. Okay, so we got two things. One is memory mapping, the other one is, does line one address the LTS need? That's another question to drive. Okay, so we got two things. Is there anything else we see as like something we want to push for this year? I know we don't have everybody in this call, and we will have to do it all in the other time zones and via email. Hopefully that will help speed things up. But that would be a good one to bring up with other people too. Anything else? Not right now, not off the top of the head. Need some time to think about it. That's what the email list is for. I like it. I, at the beginning of the year, updated the driver for my webcam, which is why it randomly zooms in on the purple chair behind me. So I apologize for those people trying to watch me on here. Okay, I think that's it then. So we've got some memory mapping stuff to do. Reach out to Mozilla folks, put some use cases together. Or at least kick off the conversation with relevant people. Is line one going to fix LTS? Do we need it? And then start sending some emails out saying we're using mailing lists to try and drive agenda items and stuff, and get a bit more coordination and discussion going on there. And fix the meeting invites so they come from dedicated Whitecode Alliance email address that somebody can have access to change. Okay, I believe, unless anybody else has something to talk about, we can save 27 minutes, which, especially for our colleagues in Europe, Dominic, Stephen, might be a good idea. Okay, going once, going twice.